It's the Tiny and Nate Show. I'm Tiny.
And I'm Nate, here to help you create time and money freedom through real estate investing,
so that you can live a life full of impact and joy. All right, we made it. Hey, everybody, this is Quito, and this is Tiny. Nate is not here, but it's just the two of us today, and I'm super stoked to be here. We're going to talk about, I don't know, one of like the most creative, exciting ways of buying real estate that I've heard of in a long time. And our guest today is Quito, and he's in Montana, right?
Yes, Billings, Montana.
Oh, gosh, I'm jealous. Well, I live in a beautiful place too, but Billings is pretty amazing, I've heard.
Yes.
We're going to cover Quito's story. He does some pretty amazing things, has learned a lot along the way. And again, as we say, our goal here is not to know everything, but to share as much as we can about what we're learning on the way through real estate. And it's just super, super fun. So today, as the title gives away, we're going to talk about buying short-term rentals on lease options. But before we get there, we're going to go back and I'm going to interview you and just ask you a bunch of questions and be super nosy and just treat me like a little baby. And I'm going to ask just simple questions like, hey, how'd you get into real estate? So let's start with that one.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
Go for it.
Awesome. It all started, my background was an engineer. So
Okay.
I was an engineer for Hewlett Packard, and I was actually staying with my sister. Thought, you know what, for a couple extra $100 more instead of renting, I thought, well, might as well get my own place. So and so that's like my little, that's how I got into real estate, because I bought my first property. It was actually a bank-owned property.
Okay.
And
Nice.
and I didn't know anything. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I was clueless. I was working with the with the realtor, and she says, "Hey, I can help you get into a house." It was like kind of a friend, right? She said, "Okay," and so she found this house. Now, get this, I bought it in kind of wintertime, so I didn't do any inspection. Okay, so
A bank-owned house with no inspection.
no inspection. Brand new buyer buying a foreclosed, bank-owned property, right? And I didn't know that you could do an inspection, because because she didn't tell me. Well, what do I know, right?
World's best agent right there.
Exactly,
Wow.
my first property. So I got in, and I tell you what, Tiny, it was crazy, because when I when I finally got the keys, it was like it was kind of towards the I would say like February, March timeframe, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So I got the water turned on, and I hear running water.
I was gonna say, oh no, something's broken.
Yeah,
In a
yes.
bank-owned home, something's broken for sure.
Exactly. So, there was broken pipes, because you know what? Pipes burst during the wintertime when you're not there. So I called the plumber. I said, "Hey, I need to get some," and they were all busy, right? So we can't get out there for like 3-4 days. Like, oh my goodness, I got to figure this out now. And I feel, well, I'm an engineer, and my buddy, my coworker's engineer, like, let's figure this out, right?
Yeah,
So
we can do this.
yeah, so you can see where the water was coming was behind a wall in like the laundry room. So we broke into the wall. Sure enough, broken pipe. So we went to Home Depot. How do we fix it? But you could do this. So we got whatever we fixed. Okay, no problem. Fixed one pipe, turn water back on. There's more leaks.
Of course.
So
Of
long
course.
story short, ended up being like 20 broken pipes that I ended up having to fix.
Oh my gosh.
I know, crazy. So so that was like and even though it was a bank loan, I knew I had to do some work. Obviously I can see holes in the walls, I can see the stained carpet. That was okay, because I can see it, right?
Right.
All the stuff that I didn't see. So anyways, luckily I was able to fix that one. Ended up getting roommates, and this is back in 2002 or something like that. So way back. So I ended up getting a roommate, and so they paid like 2/3 of my mortgage. So that was, today's that'd be called house hacking, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But I didn't realize that was a thing. I was like, okay, well, it just makes sense. I have
Yeah.
a 3-bedroom single guy, then 2 extra.
Perfect.
Why not just rent it out?
Yeah.
So
Nice.
well, I got into that, and then my coworker introduced me to the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. and then it kind of opened up my mind. And I think every investor, right, has probably read that book at some
That's
point
that's
in the
where my
journey.
investing career started. Like,
Yeah.
I've been told to read that book for a decade, more than that, like, 2 almost 2, and I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, I'll get to it."
Mhm.
Oh, man. I
Yeah.
gosh, I would've gotten into it so much earlier. It completely, like, shook my earth. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Th
So that
something
was so
something you said that made me laugh so hard, and I just wanted to point out, if there's no more nuggets, this has already been a success. I guarantee you someone's gonna watch this and feel immediately better about themselves, knowing that you bought a bank-owned house and didn't do an inspection. They're like, "Well, I haven't screwed that up today." So,
that's right. Yeah, no inspection. I was just happy that I could get a loan and get my first house, right?
oh, man.
So
But that's awesome, though. Like, that's where you started. So you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and you're like, "Oh, this is a thing. I should
yeah.
do this." Alright.
And so from there, I took the equity out because I bought it and
Mhm. Mhm.
just so it was in Everett,
Okay.
okay,
Nice.
Everett, Washington,
Mhm.
and so when I bought that and my work was in Bellevue was where my office was. So it was a huge commute, and I
No
didn't realize.
kidding.
Yeah, I didn't realize the commute. Like, oh man. So then I ended up buying a condo in Redmond, so which is a lot closer,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now instead of taking like an hour or so to work, only takes me about 10 minutes,
Right.
right?
Right.
So I bought my first condo, and then that's when I started, okay, well, let me buy other properties and other properties.
Yeah.
And then so what I've learned was, I was buying like I didn't have any mentors,
Mm.
right? And there wasn't YouTube University, there wasn't like bigger pockets. So, we have all, right now it's so easy to get into the game because you
Yeah.
have access to all sorts of resources,
Totally.
right? So I
Totally.
was kind of going by blind course in 2000 and mid 2000. Housing was just hot. Like people were making money left and right. You didn't really have to know much. And so I was thinking, okay, I buy this house for this much, it's gonna be worth this much. And this is something that is thinking back, it's like, how come I didn't think about this? But I was banking on appreciation and not cash flow,
Mm.
right?
Yep.
So I was
Yep.
thinking, gosh, you know what? Homes keep going up. Like, how can I go wrong? And then so there's some homes where I would buy and I would be negative,
Hmm.
right? But here was my logic. Like, you know
Right.
what? It's a forced savings account.
It's just gonna keep growing. It's safe.
Exactly. Yeah, it's safe. It's just gonna keep growing. It's like, I'm just
Yeah.
stop putting money away.
I think I
And
see where this is
so
going. Yeah, early
yeah.
2000s, mid
Mhm,
early 2000s? Uh-huh.
mhm, yep, yep. So anyways, so that was happening. And then so I'll back up a little bit. So I actually got my real estate license,
Oh,
you
nice.
know, because the agents I was working with, they weren't investors. They just opened the door and made a commission, right?
Right. Oh, man, that's so huge. Like, as an investor, working with other investor agents, like, even if you're not gonna do business with them, I mean, I do, but, like, being around other investors and just we think differently, like,
Mhm.
solve problems differently, and so, yeah, no, that's a grind. It's like, "Why am I paying you to, like, do something I could go do?"
Exactly,
Totally
exactly.
understand.
So I got my license. I didn't really intend on, like, doing traditional sales,
Uh-huh.
right? I
Yeah.
thought I'd find my own stuff, but so, my girlfriend, who's now my wife,
Mhm.
right? So she, started talking to her friends, like, "Hey, what are you doing how are you getting these properties?" And she's like, "Hey, I'll have you talk to my boyfriend,"
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So we would set up, and I would basically help them get into a house,
Mhm.
and show them how to fill it up with tenants, right?
Nice.
And so so my real estate side, I
Mm.
was doing good in the 2002, 3 up till 2007.
Yep.
Any person that was licensed could make a decent living,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I was making, 40 to $60,000 a month. It's like, man, this is good. This is
That's
good. So here
fantastic.
I am, buying properties,
Yep.
thinking, it's gonna keep going up. And as you know, in 2008, when the
Yeah.
market took a dive,
Yep.
um, I really just ended up losing everything,
Yeah.
right? I had about at that time about ten rental properties,
Mhm.
and at this time I also quit my engineering jobs. So in 2003. I
Mm.
quit engineering, right? So that was like in hindsight, looking back, it's like, man, I should have just kept my daytime job and
Mm.
just slowly built my portfolio,
Mm.
right? Because I think, now as I kind of tell people they have a full time job, like, don't quit your full time job.
Mm.
Like,
Yeah, you
keep
don't have to.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you don't have, because I didn't have to quit my full-time job.
Right.
It was flexible,
Yeah.
and so anyways, in hindsight would have been great. But anyways, that's what led me onto my journey of just like
Yeah.
I thought life was good. And not that I lived an extravagant life, because I didn't buy a Ferrari or live in a McMansion or anything like that. It was just
Yeah.
like, just everything just in real estate. And I
Yeah.
was, paying into it because I was negative out of pocket with 10
Mhm.
properties. I was at one point close to like $20,000 a month just outflow through all my rentals and stuff like
Right.
that, right?
Right. Right.
So, but at the time when you're making money, it's like, okay, I could afford that, right?
Yeah.
And of course, when 2008 hit, it was devastating. I mean, I didn't feel it right away, but it
Yeah.
started to happen because, in August of 2008, I remember like my real estate sales business was just kind of really slow, kind
Yeah.
of went quiet. It was weird, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And and what was interesting was I remember like a year ago, because I was with Keller Williams Realty,
Okay.
and Gary Keller, he was at an event speaking about real estate, and he say the market's going to change. You guys, keep an eye. Of course, I was new. I like, okay, market change. What's that? Because I never been through a cycle before. At least
Yeah.
realize what a cycle was, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's coming.
So now, you know, when 2008 started, things started slowing down. Now it wasn't like, my deals weren't coming through
Yeah.
as often.
Yep.
Of course, I try to hold out as long as I can. And in 2010, it was like, you know what? Like, this is it. So I ended up
Yeah.
having to sell some through, you know, um, short sale, foreclosures,
That's
just letting
rough.
things go. And I was just trying to, um, you know, just keep my own house.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I mean, like that affected my family in a huge way. My I was I was still I think I was still in school at the time, but like I remember my folks' business, they employed a bunch of people and it
Mhm.
it crushed their company. And it was the kind of the beginning of the end for their business. And I mean that's the story with like literally millions of people in the States and abroad. But I think we've all that story is so relevant because, not to not to include COVID on another podcast, but it's like
Mhm.
another kind of earth-shattering event
Right.
that's happened economically, definitely in recent times. It's like, man, we've had to adapt and pivot and be so much more responsive to survive. And
Mhm.
in at least my lifetime, it's like the second or third major thing that's happened where we're having to be responsible like that or responsive like that as business owners and go like, well, this sucks, but we're not just going to stay dead. Like we got to do something. So
Right.
I'm curious, after like such a crippling defeat, that was really kind of macroeconomics at work, which like you can just feel like such a victim, or you can
Mhm.
go, that sucks and really hurts. What are we going to do about it? So you were married at this time, or
Yep. I
you
was
got married?
married with three kids.
Oh
And
gosh,
so now I have a bigger responsibility,
that's right.
right?
What did you do? Because like you didn't have your engineering job.
Mhm.
Did you give up on real estate altogether? Because obviously you're still in it now. So kind of how did you get from 2008 to 2022 ish? How'd
Yeah,
that happen?
so, I actually I did give up real estate.
Mm.
My wife, she was like, "I don't want you to talk about real estate to me ever again."
Oh,
So there was a period between 2010, a 7-year period,
yeah.
there's no real estate. I had a pivot.
Yep.
I tried, getting an engineering job. Of
Mhm.
course, being that I was out a decade and, like, I couldn't even get a engineering job, and I ended
Mm.
up getting a job in sales,
Mhm.
right? So I got a job in like digital sales. I was working just just whatever I can. I mean,
Mm.
obviously I wasn't the money wasn't what I was used to, but then I
Right.
was able to shift my mind. It's like, you know what? Things are different. You can't expect to be making this kind of money
Yeah.
working, in regular 9 to 5,
Right.
right?
Right.
And but as a father, right, and a husband, we want to we wanna take care of our family,
Yep.
and I remember, like, the most defining moment for me was, in terms of, like, just being broke, it was my daughter's birthday, right? And I'm not sure, Tiny, if you have any kids or not.
I got 3 little girls. Yeah.
With the little girls, okay, so as you know,
Yeah.
like, it was her birthday,
Yeah.
and I had to sneak into her room
Mm.
to go get her piggy bank,
Oh,
right?
man.
Get some money from there
Oh,
so I
man.
can drive to the dollar store to get her her birthday present.
Oh,
And
man.
it was just crushing for me because,
Oh, man.
for all this time, I've been a provider, right?
Yeah.
And I felt like I just
Yeah.
couldn't provide. I didn't feel like I was a man. I mean, that was my identity, right? Like,
Yeah.
hey, this
Yeah.
is what, is who I am.
Yeah.
But then, that wasn't the case, but, I'm also a believer,
Yeah.
right? So I was like driving to the dollar store and I literally was just crying. It's like, how did I get to this point from thinking I was on top of the world to
Yeah.
where I couldn't even make ends meet,
Yeah.
right?
Wow.
And so I said, Lord, help me. I know you didn't put me on this earth to suffer, right? To
Yeah.
live this kind of life. I know you put me on this earth to live a life of abundance and prosperity,
Yeah.
right? And just help me be who you created me to be. That was
Yeah.
like my prayer,
Yeah.
right? And so I really had to make like an internal change,
Hmm.
right? It's like, you know what? You can't expect
Hmm.
the outside world. It is what it is, but you have to change how you view things,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And I remember, just having when we had a lot of conversations at night, especially when you're broke, right? You're fighting over money and things like that.
Yes.
And and one of the things like before we got married, this is the promise that I made my wife. It's like, look, honey, I know things are good, but let's not let money be what separates us.
Mm.
As long as I have my two hands, let me build our dreams. That
Mm.
was like
Mm.
my promise to her, before we got married.
Yeah.
This definitely was that time to show her, like,
Yeah.
this is. So I really had a pivot, and I ended up so to get pull out of real estate and just taking on other jobs.
Yeah.
I grew up in the food industry. Like my parents had
Okay.
a food truck selling
Yeah.
at the farmers market in Billings, and they still do to this day. They still sell at the farmers market.
Yeah.
They're like um, they're like retired, but not really. But
Yeah,
keep
yeah.
busy. So and
Nice.
they do that every summer.
Yeah.
They're still working, and they're like in their late 70s right now, and they're
Well,
still
they'll do it to their 90s, I'm sure of it.
yeah, yeah, my dad doesn't wanna stop, so, "Why don't you stop?" I goes, "No, like, I need something to do." It
Yeah.
makes sense, like, hey, it
Yeah.
gives them sense of purpose.
There you go.
So I thought by growing up, I looked at it as like, "Man, I don't wanna do that," That's a lot of hard work because it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, the ironic thing was, it was actually the thing that got us out of, our hole,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And so I ended up, building a food truck.
Nice.
Okay. And here's
Nice.
the thing about my wife. God bless her soul because she ended up selling her diamond ring,
Oh, wow.
right? And I said, I will get you double, whatever, So she sold her diamond ring
Wow.
so we could use that to finish off our food truck.
Wow. Oh, man.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? And
Oh,
so
wow.
so, like, to this day, like, I said, "Hey, honey, you still want your diamond ring? Because I promised her." And she says, "Not yet, honey. As long as I have you, that's what's important."
Oh, wow.
So,
Wow.
yeah, so that's she's a keeper. I mean,
No kidding. That's
yeah,
amazing.
they
Golly.
say, like, behind a man, there's a woman, right?
Mm. Mm.
So she really was the one that,
Mm.
believed in me. There are times where I
Mm.
just felt like, nothing's happening, but she's stuck by my side.
Yep.
So the ring and also so let me back up. So during this whole turmoil, right? I mean, I ended up filing for bankruptcy.
Okay.
You know, I end up I had like over $2 million in real estate holdings gone, right?
Wow.
And end up
Wow.
I was like 300,000 in back taxes. So I was just like crash, right? I'm like,
Yeah. You weren't
yeah,
just on the ground, you were in a deep, deep hole.
yeah, I was in a big hole, right? Like, how am I gonna extract myself
Wow.
out of this one?
Wow. Alright.
And so and then back to, to being a believer,
Yeah.
it's like, there's things that happen where that I know, that it was in the Lord's hand,
Mm.
right? I mean, there's things. So here's the thing, back to the story about building our food truck, my wife selling her diamond ring, right?
Yeah.
So there's one time where we were like about $10,000 short, right? So
Yeah.
this is after her selling her ring,
Yeah.
right? Because I really need is like, man, I beg and borrow from whoever from my family, from my sister, from my
Yeah.
younger brother, even, right? We have to borrow money from your younger brother. That
As a younger brother, that makes me laugh. Yeah.
so so anyways, like I bought what I could, and this is like, as a believer, you could appreciate this.
Yeah.
And now it's still owing the IRS, and I was working with a they call it like a tax officer, whatever, that
Mhm.
they assign you. If you owe them a lot of money, they assign
Yeah.
some tax agent
Yeah.
to like make sure you're doing what you need to do, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
one day I get a deposit in my account because I've started doing my taxes and stuff like that, and and every time I do my taxes, they would take the money out because I owe them money,
Right.
right? So any
Right.
refund you get, they're taking it. Gone,
Yep.
gone, gone, right?
Yeah.
So for several years, I didn't see any of my tax returns, right? Because they were
Right.
just taking
Yep.
it. But
Yep.
this one particular year, there was a refund, right? That I wasn't supposed to get. It was $10,000,
Mm.
$10,000 refund that went into my account. And I used that to finish my truck, right?
Nice.
And
Nice.
so, I mean, here I am thinking, how am I gonna, come up
Showed up.
with this money? Sure enough,
Showed up.
the Lord's like, you know what? You've been faithful. I make it
Mm.
happen, right?
Wow.
And there's several instances. Oh, I have a really funny story about this one.
Yeah.
So, well, before I get to the other story, let me back up. So
We do have to get to the lease option stuff.
yeah. So I was as I was talking to my IRS agent,
Yeah.
I called them up. I said, hey, I got this refund. I've
Mhm.
got this because it says like U.S. Treasury, so I know it's from the IRS, right?
Right.
Um, and I said, am I supposed to get this,
Right.
right? And then first he says, no, Quito, you're not supposed to get that. Let me tell you, that is not my department. Okay. So that's
Perfect.
all he said. That's not my department. I guess the left hand don't talk to the right hand. So I was like, okay, cool. Thank you.
All
And
I
right
need
away,
to know.
I pulled the money out real quick. Like, I don't care. I don't owe you guys money anyways. But I
Cash it. Cash it fast.
yeah, so that's what I did. Took the
I
money
spent
and
it. Sorry, it's gone.
yeah,
I
that's
don't have it.
right. Yeah, yeah. So that was what I was
Would you
thinking.
like
Like,
some tacos?
that's right. So even if they were to come to me, it's like, hey, look, I owe you money anyways. I don't care. So so we ended up was 2000 and I think
Mm,
2014. And that's when we built the food truck. And so
nice.
from 2014 on till 2017,
Mm.
just did the food truck thing. But I knew, like I was telling my wife, it's like, you know what happened to us? I don't want that experience to go to waste,
Yes.
right? Like,
Seriously.
yeah,
Learn from it,
yeah, I
treasure it, and
know.
yeah.
Exactly, like, people to experience this, get out, like, "Oh, I'm glad," like, what can I learn from this experience to help me move to my next chapter, whatever that is? I mean, I
Absolutely.
had no clue, but I knew there
Absolutely.
was something from that experience that I could learn that
Yep.
I can use,
Yep.
right? And I was telling my wife, it's like, "Okay, you know what? The next time an event happens, let's make sure we're in the position where we can take advantage of whatever that event will be." I had no clue what's gonna happen.
Right. Right.
Like,
But you knew something was gonna happen because you weren't gonna be hit sideways. My dad always tells me, he's like, if growing up, if there was failure or perceived failure, he's like, God doesn't waste anything. No
mhm,
experience you have is wasted. It's all training. And man,
right,
that's been true as I've grown up and I've seen that, and I see my kids or I see us in business, and it's like, oh, that hurt. It's like it's just
yeah.
training.
That's
Um,
right.
yeah,
So,
it's not
I
wasted.
said, let's use something out of this,
Yep.
right? And
Yep.
so I'm gonna backtrack now that I've kind of finished that off with the IRS. Let me backtrack to an example of God's grace, right?
Yeah.
So knowing that I've been, 'cause my wife's been, sees me working hard, trying to make ends meet,
Yeah.
and um And so we're at like Costco, and she knows I love chicken wings, right? And we're on a really tight budget,
Mm-hmm.
okay?
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, hey, you want these chicken wings? It was like $20, right? Yes, could we afford? I could probably have gone with it, but you know what? Like, let's use that for our kids. It's like that's
Yeah.
fine. No worries. Because God always provides. God was, it's kind of my thing with it. God always provides.
Yeah.
And so the very next day, okay, very next day, her dad comes in um, with like a cooler, okay, a cooler full of whole chickens. There must have been like about 20 chickens,
Holy
right?
cow. That's a lot of chickens.
Whole chickens, right? Because he got it from he bought it off from I think, well, his friend bought it at their work or whatever. They had some leftover inventory, so
Oh,
he
nice.
he he bought it from them really cheap, and he gave
Perfect.
some to my dad. I mean my father-in-law,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so here I'm looking at this chicken, and I was telling my wife, you see, honey, see, Lord provide. He just didn't want us to settle for a chicken. He wants chicken wing. He wants to give us
Said
the
the
whole
whole
chicken.
thing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, like, sometimes in life we end up just
Hmm.
selling for things, right? But in reality, we can get the whole thing,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So that was, that moment really stood out. I called out my chicken story,
That's
you
a
know.
heck of a chicken story, man. That's better than
Yeah.
any chicken story I have. Well, I got some good ones, but they're not nearly as happy. We had chickens for a time, for a season, that were great for the kids, but it ended eventually.
Yeah. Yeah, so
It's a
yes,
dark podcast. We won't go there.
yes, we had some good eats for a while. I
I
mean, we
bet.
ate a lot of chicken.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, 20 chickens will feed a family for a while. That's
Oh,
pretty
yes,
solid.
believe me. Yeah, so that was kind of the thing, like, because me being a believer, like when things
Yeah.
happen, it happens for a reason, and
Yeah.
and our Lord will provide. So
In his
yeah,
timing, he does, and
absolutely.
his provision is
Absolutely.
perfect. It doesn't look or feel like ours sometimes, but it is right.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I definitely attest to that.
Yeah.
Well, awesome, dude. I love the background. So we've set the scene of like you had early success. Kind of anybody was having success because of what the market was doing, but
Mhm.
you learned a lot of lessons. You got training with your license. You went through kind of catastrophic event financially and add just some really intense. Thank you for sharing, by the way. It's rare to see someone like just go like, here's what happened. So I love that. Like that's already one of my favorite podcasts already. Um, but now you got to the point where okay, you've gotten back in, but it seems like we're going to shift back into real estate.
Mhm.
What was that pivot into real estate, and then how did you? Then you moved to Montana. So catch me up there. How did all that happen?
Okay, so in 2017, I like told
Mhm.
my wife, you know what, this food thing's great, but as you know, my passion is real estate. I love real estate, and I knew, even during the mess, like I knew real estate was the way to build wealth,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yep.
that's but at the time I just didn't know because I didn't have the right
Yeah.
training, I didn't have the mentors, or have the resources that's
Yeah.
so readily available now,
Yep.
right? So in 2000 and late 2017, I decided to get back into real estate. Like, you know
Mhm.
what? So we end up selling our food truck because it was during the winter time, and that's the season's kind of slow. So
Yep.
like, let's
For
go
sure.
see, let's just sell our food truck. And so we sold the food truck, which gave us, like about 5 months of cushion,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Okay, now I'm just gonna focus hard on real estate sales. Now I didn't intend to like do the investing side. I'll just get into sales and then eventually get into investing, right? So I thought, let me
Gotcha.
get into sales. So I call up an expired listing, okay, and it was like probably like about 10 minutes from my house,
Okay.
and they say the old sellers, yeah, I still want to sell it. Okay, great. Well, let me take a look at it, thinking I would represent her as an
Right.
agent to
Right.
sell a house.
And they
So
hadn't been hounded by a million other people?
yeah, they probably have, and I must have hit them at the right time.
Yep.
And then so I drive by. I was like, man, this is kind of cool. It's right on the river. And a matter of fact, I still have a video of that somewhere on my phone. So that was my first deal. So and then so right away it's like, man, and I was doing my comparables. That
Yep.
man, this home is like 50% less than what other homes are selling for in the area.
Wow. Wow.
Like, okay. So I so and in the back of my mind, I heard like, "Now what if I get this and maybe I could sell it to somebody?" Right?
Hmm. That'd be
Yeah, I was
interesting.
like, okay. This wholesaling thing's like, okay, so what I did is like, you know what? Let's just me try it, right? So one thing I learned that you got to take action, right?
Oh
You
man.
have a concept and just put it to work. Like
Yep.
I didn't even realize that there was a whole group that did wholesaling and this and that. I didn't even realize it was out there,
Yep.
right? But I just kind of understood the concept from just being in real estate for a while,
Yeah.
So I call the sales, hey, look, I'm definitely interested in buying your property, you know, and I'll pay you cash. Now, keep in mind, I had no clue how I was going to do this, right? But I'll pay you cash,
I
right?
don't have the cash, but I'm not going to tell you that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyways, and I was talking to her son because it was an elderly lady.
Okay.
It was her husband. They had it as a rental,
Mm.
and they were doing a lot of work to it. And I thought, you know what, I
Oh,
will
okay.
take it. Yep, I'll take it for cash. And so met with her and her son, and her son said, okay, yeah, we'll sell it. And at the time, we ended up it was um, two. She wanted. I offered 200,
Okay.
right? And now I haven't even seen the inside. I just drove on the outside. So we signed the contract,
Mhm.
right? And then she gives me the keys. Okay. So then I go to the property and I just do a walkthrough. I'm by
Mhm.
myself. I didn't have a, contract or anybody. It was just me. And
Wow.
so here I got the keys to this house. Like, man, I know there's a lot of work, you know.
Yep.
Um, so then okay, let me see if I can sell this. If I can sell this, so
Yep.
so I call up my real estate agent friend
Mhm.
and say, hey, are you working with any investors? And he goes, yeah, I'm with a few investors.
Yeah.
So before that, I also posted on Craigslist too,
Oh,
post
okay.
Craigslist, and so I got a lot of leads from that as well.
I bet.
Right?
Yeah,
And
for
so and then
sure.
I tell my friend about it, and then he brings his buyer who's a seasoned investor,
Mhm.
takes a look at it,
Mhm.
and so when I did see it, I renegotiated the price to 180
Oh,
because
wow.
so after seeing it, like, man, there's a lot more work than I
Sure, you
anticipated.
didn't get to see the inside at all. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So she gave me $20,000 off. Like, okay, so 180,
Okay.
and then we ended up selling it for 230.
Okay.
Okay.
Nice.
Now,
Nice.
when my friend, had say, yeah, my investor will buy for 230, I was like, man, because homes were selling for like 450 or so,
Oh,
you
wow.
know. So it's
Wow.
like I sell for 230. And I remember going to bed thinking, and we haven't even closed yet, but we could close in like 10 days because it was
Right.
I was like,
Right.
man, this is really gonna happen. I'm gonna make like $60,000 in this deal? Like,
It's
for
crazy.
real? And I didn't even know about, um, like, double closing or stuff like that, and I figured out, like, assignment fee, so how do I get the
Yeah.
assignment fee? So, I was just learning this on the fly, so there was an escrow, person that I worked with,
Yep.
in the past.
Yep.
So I called her up, "Hey, this is what I'm doing, and I'm gonna assign
Yep.
I'm gonna assign it to another,
Yeah.
another buyer." She goes,
Yep.
"Yeah, well, we just need an assignment, like an addendum, you're gonna sign it."
Yep.
She's like, "Okay," so I Googled, what verb is assignment, I was like, "Well, I just use that," right?
Well, there you
Uh,
go. Oh,
so
man.
so that was like my very first
Yep.
deal in like, on the wholesaling side. And I remember like, as we started getting close to the closing date, it's like, oh my goodness, this is gonna be real. And when it closed and it got that check, it was like, holy smoke. I mean, it was life changing for me, right?
Absolutely.
$60,000. And,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and then I paid, my agent his 3%, you know,
Yep.
so I still made out. I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh, this is like amazing. Like, okay. And
Wow.
then shortly after that, um, I got another deal, right? And
Yep.
so, um, and I made $80,000,
Oh my gosh. But
right?
that see,
So
the thing I point out, or we try to point out, is like you you didn't wait until you had all the answers to begin. you started. Like there
Yeah.
is no substitute for massive action. There just isn't. Like no amount of training you take, no amount of gurus you pay, no amount of videos you watch on YouTube will substitute for taking action. And I love to hear that your story kind of had that as kind of the kickstart to get it back going is like,
Mhm.
I don't even know how I'm gonna do this, but I'm gonna do this. And you did
Yeah.
it. And it's not like anybody lost. Like the seller of that first place, they didn't have to lift a finger. Like
Mm.
they were taking up all their time. And I'm pretty sure none of them were just like, hey, could we fix up an old rental house like with our time? I'm pretty sure they had lives to live. And so they
Mhm.
didn't have to keep doing that. They didn't have
Exactly.
to clean it up and list it and do all that stuff. Like and the people who that investor, that investor made money. And
Mhm.
then on average, like 15 people that got employed to flip the house.
Yeah.
Like it just I love it. I love
Yeah.
that cycle.
So everybody won. So, like,
Yeah.
like you said, that the seller won because, I mean, they had it listed, it didn't sell.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
so it was an expired listing, right? So
That's
they they
right.
they
That's
they had
right.
it,
They
and
were
it
stuck.
expired. Yeah,
Yep.
they were stuck thinking, "Okay, great," and
Huh.
so and there was some stuff that needed to be done, obviously, but I
Sure.
was willing to take it on, and the buyer, the investor knew,
Yep.
knew way more than I did. I was like, "Okay, well, here's, I'll take 230 for it," right?
Yep.
So, yeah, so it was so that went great, and then the next wholesale deal was after I did my first, and I got excited. So I was telling my other friends, man, I did this, and goes, so if you know anybody that needs to sell their house quick, let me know. And he
Yeah.
goes, I do know this lady that's going through a divorce.
Hmm.
Like, oh, okay, well, let me meet up with her.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
so she came in. So she made the introduction. I went there to the house, and so now, because I did Craigslist ad, I had a list of buyers,
Hmm.
right? Potential
There you
buyers,
go. I love it.
right?
Yep.
And I was just intuitively, let me just get their phone numbers down. If I have something, I will call them.
Yeah.
Now at this time, I haven't really seeked any, like, experts in the field yet. I was just like was doing it, right? And then, so, like, after my second deal, because it was the lady was going through foreclosure, sad story, because
Mm.
her son committed suicide,
Oh,
in the
man.
house, and I mean, it was just a mess, and she needed to start her life over,
Mhm.
and I was like, "Hey, I will, how much do you owe? How much you wanna walk away with," right? Because all
Yep.
these things, because when we wanna create a situation where it's a win for them, win for everybody. You know,
Absolutely.
I'm not gonna take
Absolutely.
advantage of anybody,
No.
right?
No.
So
Yep.
so from there, it's like, okay, she gave me a price that she wanted, and I knew, like, okay, what homes are selling for in the area,
Mhm.
right? So right away, I call up, an investor that missed out on the first house.
Nice.
I said, "Hey, look, I've got another property,
Mhm.
you know, I'll give you first shot,
Mhm.
right? Here's my price."
Yep.
And, so he went in, I got him in, he went to take a look, and he says, "Okay, I'll buy it," you
Nice.
know? And then,
Nice.
of course, I paid to get the house cleaned up, had to pay, it was on a
Yep.
septic system, paid to get the septic pump and stuff like that, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I invested a little money upfront,
Mhm.
but,
Mhm.
then he ended up buying it, and we ended up making about $80,000 on an assignment.
That is huge,
Yeah.
man.
So,
Gosh,
and
and that
that
just that changes your whole, like, financial landscape.
it
I mean,
sure did. I mean, it go
that's,
from this.
160 or 150-ish thousand dollars between those
Mhm.
2 deals, like, probably was close to what you made in the food truck in a year. I mean, at least
Oh,
a big
yeah.
fraction of it.
Easy.
It's
Easy,
like,
absolutely.
wow. Just I mean, for that to come and just happen, well, it didn't just happen. You worked to have it happen and God's provision. But I mean, I love when people are thinking about wholesaling or just real estate investing in general, like if maybe they don't even know what wholesaling is and they're watching this. It's like there's so much value produced when someone who's in a bind,
Mhm.
something happened, someone got sick, someone got divorced, some issue happened in their life, and they need solutions, not more problems.
Right.
And man, when you can come in the time of need and provide a solution, go, what do you need to like successfully transition to whatever you're going to? How do we get you there? And you're able to do that and remove roadblocks, whatever it is. It's not always just financial.
Mhm.
Um, oh my gosh, the like uplift that you can bring to their life and like getting them unstuck. It's like they've been stuck in these ruts and it's rusted in place. When you can give them a push out of that and get them headed in a new direction that's like good for them, that's my favorite part. I mean,
Mhm.
it really is like second, or I guess it would be that's my favorite part. And then when you see a flipped house and like just the restoration process, that's
Mhm.
also really cool.
Yeah, and it's cool because the other investor, I mean, like, I get to see, like, 2 transformation, right?
Yeah.
One investor trying to look great, and then the second transformation, I mean,
Yeah.
he made it look nice, and he ended up selling it, and
Yep.
he made money, so it
Yep.
was like a win-win, and
And then
so
that community wins because that probably
exactly.
nasty house is no longer
Mhm.
nasty.
Exactly,
Yep.
exactly, and so from there and that's when I've, realized, "Oh, wait, there's a whole new business model regarding wholesaling,"
Yep.
like, so I got turned on to, Maxwell,
Uh-huh.
right? He does
Yep.
wholesaling stuff, and then the bunch of other people on YouTube like, "Oh, man, there's actually a process, there's actually a system to do this," right?
Real
Uh,
contracts?
yeah, exactly.
Dude, shout
So
out to that escrow officer that sets you straight though, like the unsung heroes of the real estate world, like
oh,
really
yeah, she's
solid
great
escrow
because she was
officers.
there's things I still use her today, on
Nice.
deals that are in Washington, right?
Nice. Yep.
And,
Perfect.
yeah, because if I needed something, she's like, "Hey, no," she'll say, "Look, let me give you an example of what somebody did." And
Yeah.
she's like, give me an example," right? So, normally they don't do that, right? Because there's
No,
liability, but, she
theoretically, for education only, this
yeah,
is the form you need. Yeah.
mhm, yeah.
It reminds me of The Incredibles, like, "Okay, I did not tell you to fill out Form 35B. I did not tell you to go to this part." It's like, "No, you didn't." Got it. No.
Yeah. So from there, I just started doing wholesaling, and then I, wanted to do fix and flips.
Yeah.
So in 2019,
Mhm.
I said, you know what, let me do fix and flips. And then so I partner up with people who's done fix and flips. They've
Yep.
done like 150 fix and flips. And like, I want to get the experience. So it's like, you know
Yep.
what, let's partner up. So
Yeah.
we did a renovation, turned out great. I didn't
Awesome.
really make a lot of money, but that wasn't important to me. And that was a point where I just
You
wanted
probably learned a lot.
exactly. I
Yep.
just wanted to learn. So I did a couple of that. And of course, in 2020, you know, when this whole, COVID thing happened, right?
Mhm.
And that was interesting because way earlier, back in, when I was struggling, I was telling my wife, I was like, next time an event happens, let's be in a position so where we can actually take advantage of it,
Yeah.
right? Let's
Yeah.
be in a position. And then of course, back then, you don't know what's going to happen, but you know something's going to happen.
Yeah.
But we want to be on the other side of, whatever it is that's going to happen,
Yep. For
right?
sure.
And then with, when the COVID hit, now we've got the PPP, we've got
Mhm.
the unemployment. So,
Mhm.
back then everyone was making more money not working than they
Oh,
were working,
yeah.
right? It was just crazy.
It was
It
crazy.
was it was just crazy.
Yeah.
So but I took that opportunity to say, okay, you know what? Where's going to be our next move,
Mm.
right? I've always wanted to come back to Billings
Mhm.
because this is where I grew up.
Nice.
My wife growing up in Seattle is like, "Oh, man, Billings is a small town," but, like, she could when we come visit, we could only stay, like, 3, 4 days, and she's done. She's had it, like, let's let's go back home, right? Um,
My shoes are dirty, and I just feel like I need a shower.
yeah, yeah, and but back then in 2020, we actually said, "You know what? Let's go visit Montana."
Yeah.
So we actually stayed here for, like, about a month,
Nice.
right?
Nice.
And then and then we started, looking at I mean, every time we come, we see it expanding. The city's getting bigger and
Oh,
bigger,
yeah. Oh,
right?
yeah.
It's
Big
like,
time.
"Well, let's start marketing to Billings, see what happens,"
Nice.
right? And so we started marketing before we even moved here, we started marketing to the Billings market.
Yep.
And then, so we started and we got some traction when we were buying up properties,
Mhm.
you know, on and then that's how we ended up, I was finding pace about doing creative stuff. With
Yes.
finance, doing the sub 2 stuff. Oh, okay, that's great. So I tell you, our first deal we did here, seller financing,
Mhm.
right? 3 homes on 1 lot.
Oh, wow. Nice.
And it was an older gentleman,
Mhm.
and, we ended up buying it for, like, you're gonna think it's crazy, but $2,500.
Nice. That's
So
amazing.
that is yes. So 7,500 need a lot of work, but we figured, we'll just buy it. And so the front two house was crazy. We ended up just leveling it. We just have to have the back house. We just got done living. But so that was like our very first property here. And then when I moved here in 2000, last year,
Yep.
2021,
Yep.
April of 2021. So in 2020, we came to visit,
Yep.
right, and started. Okay, so in 2020, we started, just marketing,
Okay.
so and just building a relationship,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and in 2020, in April of last year, we moved here.
Okay.
So, and then
And how did you start doing lease options on short-term rentals? That's I'm like dying to know. Like,
okay, yeah, I will get
how
there.
did he get to
So
that? Like,
so I was buying a lot of stuff on like subject to seller
yep.
financing, doing some hard money, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
we went from having no properties to
Mhm.
just started accumulating, triplexes, duplexes, fourplexes,
Nice.
right? And then
In which markets?
it in Billings market. So
Nice.
we came and we started just now that we're here, we were able to follow up and get face to face with these people we've been communicating with,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And so, and that's so powerful just being in front of somebody, right?
Yep. It
And
is.
so we started buying, you know, uh, duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, and
Mhm.
then we ended up buying like an 18 unit,
Oh,
right?
nice.
And so, and now because when I
Traditional or creative or
yeah,
combination of everything?
creative, we did it was a combination, but this
Yep.
18 unit was creative seller
Wow.
financing.
Awesome.
Um, it's just crazy because
That's amazing.
I got into it putting $2,000 down on an 18 unit that generates about $7,000 a month.
I'm coming to Billings, and you're gonna
Yes.
teach me a bit more. That's amazing. Wow.
So that's what we did. And so back to, our short-term rental. So here's this guy we've been communicating since I was in Seattle,
Yeah.
right? And so here I am. Now that I'm here, I got a chance to meet up with him.
Yep.
Meet up, took a tour of the place, and
Mhm.
then I just kept following up because he was talking to other investors too
Sure.
from out of
Sure.
town that would be interested in this. And then he didn't want to get hit with the big taxes and stuff like
Yep.
that.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, hey, look, why don't I do this?
Yeah.
You know, so like, why don't you just lease it to me,
Mhm.
right? And then every month that I pay you, put give me a credit towards the purchase price of the house,
Nice.
right? And then in the end of 5 years,
Mhm.
right, I can cash you out.
Right. So
Right?
that as you get into this, I might know what a lease option is, but I couldn't teach it. I want you to real quick just break down what is a lease option before we get
Okay.
into how you're
Yeah.
doing it.
So basically, what a lease option is like, you're actually leasing from a owner,
Mhm.
right? With the idea, with the option
Mhm.
that in an X amount of years, that
Mhm.
I can purchase this property from you at a fixed price.
Right.
So you agreed on to a price today
Mhm.
that you're willing to pay, but you
Yep.
have 5 years to exercise
Got it.
to buy it.
Yep.
Okay, and so what I did was, let's get some credit because
Mhm.
I'm paying him monthly. Let me get some credit towards a purchase price, so this way it will reduce my final purchase price in 5 years,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. Yep.
So this
Meanwhile, the cash flow of that property is paying your lease.
exactly. It's paying my lease, and I was totally transparent. I told him exactly what I was going to do because he had it as a short-term rental,
Okay.
right? But his situation is this. He's like almost 80 years old,
Oh,
so
was
he's
he managing it himself?
yes, self-managed, doing
Ugh.
things like that. So it was a win-win because I was able to take that off his plate. So now he
Totally.
no longer has to
Yep.
manage the properties and turn it over, this
Yep.
and that, right? And
Yep.
so I took it over, and he's gonna get, his mortgage covered. He still has a mortgage on it,
There you go.
and he was paying $1,200 a month was his mortgage, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so, and I'm paying him 3,200, so which
Perfect.
means that he's getting $2,000 a month for doing nothing,
He's
basically.
happy. He's like, "Wait a minute. You're telling me I can do nothing and still get it paid for and get 2 grand? Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
doing that. I'm
yeah.
doing
So I
that."
said, "Here, just because that's how much he would have been making, but he would have been slaving away, and it
Exactly.
would have been consistent for him."
Yep.
right? And so
Yep.
I'm going to give you consistently, and he was fine with that.
Nice. And did
So
you so do you have, because you're doing this on a bunch of properties, do you have like a property management company that runs them for short-term rentals, or do you partner, or like how do you?
yeah, actually, I have so right now we're up to about 60 units total.
Wow.
Okay, so I have a full-time property manager that
Hmm.
manages, collecting rents and all
Hmm.
that stuff, and then she's also responsible for the turnovers on our short terms.
Awesome.
So, and right now, I'm still learning the short-term
Hmm.
market. So I'm
Yeah.
kind of experimenting. But our first week, so because I just literally just got it last month,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And our first week, we generated about over $5,200 in rental revenue from
Awesome.
Airbnb.
Awesome.
So that
Yeah.
covers my first month.
Yep.
Now, um, now in February, I've got, because they're staying until like March.
Okay.
So and we have 5 units in that building.
Nice. Nice.
So that's being Airbnb out, and
Yeah.
we're like half a mile from the major hospitals, from
Oh
the
wow.
medical corridor. So
Nice.
I'm trying to market to getting like traveling nurses
I
because
was
I hear.
just gonna say there's a whole market for people who have, traveling nurse, or they're gonna be in a place for 60 or 30 days or 90 days or
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
yeah.
That's awesome.
So that's what I'm doing right
There's a
now.
whole platform on that. Do you know which platform that is?
Yeah, that's
Something like
furnishfinders.com.
that. Pace told
Yeah,
me about it, but he
yeah,
definitely connect with him if you don't know what it is, because it's like the way to do it. So
yeah. So that's what I'm doing, and I'm on a
nice.
VRBO, and then of
Awesome.
course Airbnb.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, so
Yep.
between that, we're getting some traction, but obviously I'm still learning, so I gotta be patient. Like, oh, how come I'm not making? Because I did my calculations, and if I get it fully rented out, like how
Yeah.
it should be, the income I should be generating close to $9,000 a month. After I
But you're
should,
like a month in, man. Like you're doing it.
yeah.
You'll get
So
there.
yeah, I'll get there. I just gotta be patient, right? So
Yep.
it's like
Mhm.
so that's kind of the plan with that is to get it fully functional. What I might do is,
Yeah.
maybe because there's 5 units, have two where I have steady
Yeah.
long-term tenants in there, so that will
Yeah.
help offset.
It's covered.
Hmm.
And everything else is just, I love that. So I'm curious here, if someone was watching this and they wanted to say like, okay, lease option, that sounds amazing. How do you, and we're just about out of time, but how do you break down for a seller or potential seller like a lease option? Like how would you approach them? What would you say? How do you explain it so they're not like, because anytime you, in my experience, anytime you mention something like terms that's not just very clear, like you
Hmm.
list your house, you sell your house, real estate
Right.
agents involved, they get all like, oh, you're doing something sketchy. That can happen.
Right.
How do you talk about it?
Yeah, I used to say, hey, you know what? Are you okay? Renting it, long term to me.
Hmm.
Like I'll be willing to rent this one for 3 to 5 years or
Hmm.
whatever, right?
Hmm.
And then at that time, would you be open to selling it to me? So, and then if they're saying, yeah, I'm open to that, then we can get into like the, the details. But
Nice.
long as I get them say, hey, look, I'll rent this from you long term, but I like the option to buy it down the road from you. Are you okay with, would you be open to that?
Yeah. Yep.
Right. And then,
So
and then
if you're
depending
renting it, sorry, if you're renting it for like $1,000 a month for easy numbers,
on,
and
mhm,
it costs, they agree to a price of 100,000. I know it'd be like a million or a couple, but is the lease option part where what you're paying per month goes towards the payment? So if you leased it for like 10 months, would that $10,000 go towards the $100,000 sale price? Is that
um,
how that works?
it varies depending on how you negotiate it.
Okay.
Right. I usually like to get some kind of credit towards the purchase.
Okay.
Sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't. But what's important is like this, because I remember Robert Kiyosaki, mentioned is like you don't have to own the property, just control it,
Right.
right? So if I'm controlling the property for 5 years and I'm renting it for 1,000, and I know I can get $1,600 a month in rents,
Yep.
that's a $600 cash flow each month.
Absolutely.
Whether I own it at the end or not, I'm not too concerned.
Yep.
But my focus is I want to get that cash flow.
Mhm.
right? So if
Mhm.
I'm cash flowing $600 a month, that's like $7,200 a year, right?
Mhm.
You get 10 of those, that replaces your income, for most people,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So
Awesome.
that's the thing is to control it. And
Yep.
yeah, because there's one lease option where I'm doing right now where I'm not getting any money towards the I'm not getting any credits,
Yeah, yeah.
okay? But I'm paying $1,200 a month, but
Mhm.
I'm collecting 28.
Perfect.
So
Perfect.
$1,600
No kidding. Yeah.
cash flow, but even though I don't get any credits, but I'm buying it at today's prices,
Yeah.
right? So in 5 years,
You've got a price locked in.
yeah, so my price is locked in.
I love
Who
that.
knows what 5 years will come with that property? I'm picking this up for 200,000,
Okay.
right? So I did put a option money. I put $10,000 down.
Okay.
10,000 will go towards the purchase price if I exercise. So in 5 years, my price is 190, right?
Right, and the beauty of it is, like, you're not locked in, you don't have to buy it, it's an
Yep.
option.
Yep. I don't have to buy.
So if
Absolutely.
if pay up time comes and you don't want that property or something's happened, exterior depreciation, say they knock down those houses and now it's some kind of sketchy mall or something, you don't
Mhm.
have to buy that, but you
Exactly.
control it. That is so genius, and the man, the power of money over time and it appreciating in value, but you having that price locked in, that is
Yes.
incredible. I love that. That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's amazing.
And that's one thing about real estate. It's like I think it's a vehicle that anybody can have access to,
Hmm.
right? And you just gotta be, and you don't like when they say like you don't need money. I mean, there's some money involved, right? But you don't have to be born with a lot of money to get into real estate. You
Yeah.
just gotta get creative.
Yes. Yes. And something that Pace told me is like there's literally an infinite way, there's an infinite number of ways to acquire and disposition or sell property. Like the
Right.
the ways you can mix and match creative finance or just any number of strategies. It's like if you have a property that someone wants to sell, the only reason you can't do that is because you don't have the right tools or like you're not being
Mhm.
creative enough. Like if they actually want to sell it and they're motivated, because you can't cure like a lack of motivation
Right.
generally.
Exactly. If they're motivated, I mean, you
They're
could find
motivated. There's a way to do it. And
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like you just got
absolutely.
to solve their problem. Make their problem your problem. And
Exactly.
man, that's how to make deals happen. I love that. I love the creativity. And now I'm gonna have a thanks a lot. Now I'm gonna have a conversation with Nathan about when are we doing our first lease option? When's that gonna happen?
Yeah, so, I mean, it's great, yeah, I mean, just like I say, just jump in and then, I mean, right now, of course, the rental market is hot, right?
Yep.
But there's still some deals because you can still rent stuff at full retail, but if you can do short term on it,
Yeah.
you could make up, the difference,
Yeah, there's
right?
opportunity there for sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
and a lot of these, like, traveling nurses or whatever, their housing budget is
it
ridiculous.
is. I mean, I'll be surprised, like, how much they get per day, they get a
Mhm.
per diem, they get a housing allowance, and,
Yep.
it's yeah, it's
Mhm.
so they make some decent money.
Yeah, that insurance money.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm speaking of ignorance. I'm not a traveling nurse. Don't hate me. Please don't write me. Yeah, I don't know. But, I love the creativity there. I love just the ways to solve those problems, and, man, you're giving it's also there's a smoothing effect where you're not just hitting them up and going like, "Hey, this investment property, I wanna buy it. Here's a cash offer," which sometimes is the right thing to do.
Mhm.
But you're easing and transition. Hey, I want to rent this from you for long term, like a long term.
Mm,
Gosh, that's you just solved a pain in their head, which is turnover. Like,
exactly.
I'm gonna have like now I have a dependable person. Okay, that's got to drop some good endorphins in their
Yeah,
brain,
for
and then you go,
sure.
hey, but I'd also like the ability to buy it from you at the end if I want to. Is that something we could talk about? Yeah. So like you're not just hitting them right in the face with something that's new. It's like this. I want to rent what you need rented. I want to be a
Mhm.
long-term customer of yours. I'd also
Yeah,
like to be able to buy it in the end if I want to. I love that. I really love
yeah,
that.
it's just like you say, it's kinda smoothing in, you're not hitting all at once. Let's just take them baby steps, like going on a date, like,
Yeah,
yeah,
totally.
I'll rent this for 5 years. Oh, great, I don't have to worry about, hey, at the end of 5 years,
Yeah.
let's get married or whatever.
If we want to, if we want to.
If you want to, if it works out, right?
That makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I love that, man. Well, dude, I've had so much fun, and I think this is officially the longest podcast in our history, our very short history. But I
Uh,
think I had a blast. I hope you had a fun
oh,
time.
likewise, it was great just talking. Thank you for the opportunity to come in and just chat, and just just share my story. And
Thanks for sharing your story, man. Like, and just being vulnerable and open, and like, I think so many people. I know I can. Like when you were saying the things you went through, and I was thinking of those years in my life. Like, oh man, it definitely hit notes of like pain when that I've experienced similar things through my life, and that the breaking the baby's penny bank,
yeah, that
oh,
was, yeah,
that's
yeah.
gonna stick with me. But like seeing God's faithfulness and your faithfulness to stick with it and go, I trust. I think that's one of the biggest things we're called to as believers is just trusting. It's not like
Mhm.
working harder or earning necessarily.
Right.
It's like trusting. I think as our dad, like that's what he wants. He wants us. That's what I want from my kids. I want them to trust me. You
Mhm.
know, and I think that's rad. I really love that. Well, dude, anything else you want to leave with us, or we pretty much covered it all? I think
Yeah,
I think we
just
got to
cover
have
my
you.
whole journey. So ups and down, and who
Yes,
knows where it's gonna take me next. But I'm having fun now. I'm learning a lot, and
I love
you
it.
know, and
I love it.
just connecting with with like people like you and Nate. I
Yeah,
mean, it's great in being a community that's always sharing and giving. So
I love it. I love it. Well, we've got to do this again. I don't know, in less than a year for sure. I want to see how that 18 units going and teach us some more things about short-term leases. I think that's awesome with options. I love it. Well, man, I appreciate you, and I can't wait to share this with our friends and viewers. I think they're going to love it. Thank you for
all
being
right,
on the
thank
show.
you. All
Yeah.
right,
All right, man. We'll see you. Thank you so much.
okay,
All
all right,
right.
bye.
Bye. It's the Tiny and Nate Show. I'm Tiny,
And I'm Nate, here to help you create time and money freedom through real estate investing.
so that you can live a life full of impact and joy.